Hey everyone, I'm Army Gaming. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the 7 Deadly Sins explanation video / mini analysis video. For those of you that are new to my channel or new to the game and you don't quite understand how the maze event works, don't worry because I'm going to be explaining exactly what you need to do to get the most out of this event. And for those of you that already know everything you need to know about maze islands, maze events, then don't worry because at the end of this video there's going to be a mini analysis on all of the monsters and I'm going to be sharing with you guys my thoughts on which monsters are worth going for. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into it. 7 Deadly Sins. This event lasts a total of 22 days, so as of the time recording this video there's 21 days left, 14 hours, 11 minutes, and the seconds are counting away. 7 sinners guard the hell of monster legends. 2 of them you already know, you'll have to find the other 5 in order to meet them for the first time. So I'm not sure if they're trying to tell us there's going to be another secret passage, maybe 2 secret passages. In the previous event, the Zodiac Maze, there was a secret passage where we can get a monster from before. So it's very possible that Social Point may give us another secret passage in this event, but I can't say for sure as of right now. So anyways, there's currently 8 available monsters in this event. Sludger, Invidia, Everone, Lilisha, Pigridu, Avaricia, Vanitas, and Rabies. So a total of 5 legendary monsters, 2 epics, and 1 rare. Oh, and before I forget, everything I'm talking about, all the information provided in this video is thanks to monsterwood.com. There's going to be a link in the description if you want to follow along. So if you are following along in monsterwood.com, I want you to click right here where it says get coins. So if you clicked on get coins, scroll down to where it says how to get maze coins, and this is basically all you really need to know about how to complete the event. There's essentially 6 different actions you can perform in order to get maze coins. You can collect gold, collect food, breed your monsters, feed your monsters, hatch eggs, and fight in player versus player. Depending on the different tasks you do, you get a different number of coins, and there's also a limit to how many coins you can get before they respawn. So down here I highlighted it in blue, there's 4 terms you need to familiarize yourself with, but actually there's only 2 that matter, and that's the 2 middle terms, pool and spawn. The pool number indicates the maximum number of available coins to be collected since the last time you played. You can fill up to but not past this point. And the second term, spawn time, this is the time it takes for another coin to be added to the pool, and you should know that you cannot add to a full pool. So scrolling back up, let's take a look at the action collecting gold. The pool for collecting gold is 30, and the spawn time is 4 hours. And if you notice, the spawn time for every activity is 4 hours. So all this simply means is when your pool is 0, it takes exactly 4 hours for your pool to be full all the way to max. So for collect gold, max is 30. For collect food, max is 50. For breeding your monsters, max is 50, and so on. So for example, let's say you're logging into Monster Legends for the very first time, the event just started, and you collect all of your gold, you collect your food, you do all 6 of these activities. Well, if that is the case, you should theoretically empty out all your pools, and then you can log in 4 hours and collect your pools, and they're going to be full once again, and you can keep doing that every 4 hours. And so for example, if you were to collect gold and you get your 30 maze coins, and instead of logging in 4 hours, you log in 2 hours, you're probably only going to get 15 maze coins. And then if you were to log in 1 hour after that, 4 hours haven't passed yet, only 1/4 of the time has passed yet, so the pool is not going to be at 30, it's probably going to be at 8 or 9 coins. So the simplest thing you can do for this event is to log in intervals of 4 hours. That's all you have to do. For collecting gold, it's very simple. You can literally go on one habitat and just spam collect until you get all 30 of your maze coins. Collecting food is also very simple. What I like to do is plant the blue lizard's tail over and over again until I get my 50 maze coins. Breeding monsters is another simple way to get 50 maze coins. All you have to do is breed Thunder Eagles. If you don't have a Thunder Eagle, you can buy it in the shop for gold. Or if you only have one Thunder Eagle but you also have a Thunder Legendary, you can also breed those 2 monsters together and they're gonna produce a monster that only takes 4 hours, which is Thunder Eagle. And as for feeding your monsters, there's 2 ways to do this action. The first of which is that you can just feed that Thunder Eagle up until you get your 30 maze coins. The second thing you can do is to have your secondary breeding tree or breeding cave to breed fire nature, breed a fire nature monster, and you're going to produce like a Pandaken or something that takes 30 seconds or below, and then you can just keep doing that and feed that monster to like level 4, sell it, feed it to level 4, sell it, and repeat that process until you get your 30 maze coins, and this way you also save a lot of food and you're not just wasting food. And to complete the action of hatching eggs, this is very simple. All you have to do is hatch that newborn Thunder Eagle. So Thunder Eagle takes 4 hours to breed and he takes 4 hours to hatch, so it's also a really great way to keep track of when the last time you logged in was. And as for fighting player versus player, all you need to know is that you need to win your battles. You can't just fight in player versus player, you actually have to win. And I personally recommend that you do 2 player versus player battles and then just let the next one regenerate, log in 4 hours, use 2 of them, log in 4 hours, use 2 of them, and so on. And yeah, that's pretty much all you have to do. Even if you don't understand pull and spawn time, all you need to know is that you need to log in every 4 hours, and that's all. Log in every 4 hours, do all of your actions, and you're good to go. Oh, and one more thing, this event, it doesn't matter what level you are. Whether you're level 20 or whether you're level 100, that doesn't matter. Level does not influence anything in this event. A person who's level 20 and a person who's level 100, they have the exact same opportunity to get a monster in this event. If you're higher level, you don't have a better chance. If you're lower level, you don't have a better chance. Everyone has the exact same opportunity. Alright, so once you understand how to get maze coins, next let's click on the summary tab. And clicking on the summary tab will take you to the summary of the 7 Deadly Sins Island table, which basically shows you everything you need to know about the events. There's a column for every single pathway in the event. There's a column for all of the rewards you can get, which includes roulette spins, gold, maze coins, and food. There's a column for other rewards such as keys. And the last column shows you exactly how many coins you need to complete a single pathway. So for example, if we look at the row for pathway number 1, Sludger, you need 0 keys to play that pathway. You can get 4 roulette spins, 2.5k gold, 1k food, and also somewhere along the Sludger pathway you get key number 2. And key number 2 is the key for Nvidia. And also it costs 245 coins to complete the Sludger pathway so you can get that monster. So you can use the summary table to figure out which monster you need to move in order to get the certain monster you want. So for example, let's say you really want Lilisha. Well, right below Lilisha's name, it says that you need 2 keys to play. So if we look back up, it says that one of those keys is in pathway number 3, and the other key is in pathway number 2. But when we look at pathway number 2, it says that it needs 1 key to play, and that key can be acquired from pathway number 1. So you kind of have to go looking through each single monster, each single pathway to see where the keys are in order to unlock the monster that you want. And just so everyone doesn't get confused, this number on the last column, this only indicates how much it costs to complete this entire pathway. It doesn't actually take into account how much it costs to get the keys required for the pathway. So for example, pathway number 4, this costs 3,945 coins to complete the pathway. But honestly, if you want to calculate the total from pathway number 1 to pathway number 4, you would have to go back into pathway number 3, find out how many steps you need to move to get key number 4, you need to go to pathway number 2, you need to find out how many nodes you need to move to get the key for pathway number 4, and you also need to go to Sludger's pathway, pathway number 1, and figure out how many nodes you need to move them in order for you to get key number 2. And only then will you know exactly how much it costs to get a certain monster. But anyway, scrolling all the way down, it tells you that if you want to complete the whole event, it's going to cost you 38,575 coins. And unfortunately, that's not possible. These events, the maze and the progressive islands, normally they're not possible without using gems or paying money. But I'm going to come back to this. Let's click on map for now. So if you click on map, it'll basically show you a complete map overview of the whole event. So let's say you're after gems, you only want gems, you don't really care about monsters. You can use this to help you get those gems. If you're after monster cells, you can use this thing. Basically just use this complete map overview to help you out in the whole event. The last thing I want everyone to click on is the happy hours. Happy hours, which is also known as discount days, is pretty much the only time you shouldn't be moving. Other than happy hours, I highly recommend that you don't make any movements. Because the thing is, when there's a happy hour, so for example March 24th from 9 to 10 AM, during this time every single move costs 10% less. So if you recall, the whole event cost 38,575 coins to complete the event. If you were only to move during happy hour, it would only cost you 34,717. That is a huge saving. So I highly recommend you only move during discount days. And for those of you wondering when all of the discount days are, that's all provided on monsterwiki.com. There's a link in the description. And you should also note that the time shown on the Monster Wiki is in UTC time, so you need to convert it to your own local time. There's also going to be a link in the description to convert it if you don't know how to do it yourself. So now that you know all of that for the 7 Deadly Sins maze, let's find out how many coins you can actually get during a day. So we're going to add up how many maze coins you can get if you were to do all of these activities in one go. So collect gold, you get 30, collect food, you get 50, breed monsters, you get 50, feed your monsters, you get 30, hatch eggs, you get 50, and fight player versus player, you get 30. And if you add all of that up, you get 240. So every time you log in, you should be getting 240 maze coins. Now let's just say that you can log in 4 times during the whole day. 240 times 4 times that you're logging in, that's 960. Okay, great, you can get 960 coins per day, and there's 21 days left, so you can get a total of 20,160 maze coins. So 20,000 maze coins, that's obviously nowhere near 38,000 maze coins. But check this out, if we eliminate rabies, let's say you forget about the 8th pathway, you don't even care about rabies, this whole event will only cost 26,555 maze coins. And so if you're collecting 960 maze coins a day and you're able to do that for 21 days, then you actually can complete all 7 pathways all the way to Vanitas. Especially if you only move your monster during discount days, because if you only move during discount days and you don't worry about rabies, this whole event only costs 23,899. Not to mention that the maze itself will give you around 700 maze coins. Every time you spin the roulette, there's a chance to get maze coins. We're probably going to get 2 or 3 maze dungeons. We're probably also going to get 1 or 2 monsterwood events where you get maze coins instead of gems. So I believe you can certainly get well over 25,000 maze coins during this event, which means you can complete pathways 1 through 7 if you ignore rabies. You could probably also get rabies, but you'd have to forego getting some other monsters. So the decision is ultimately yours. You can either get rabies or you can get monsters 1 through 7. And for those of you that think you can log into the game 5 times a day, well, you should know that you can get a total of 25,200 maze coins just by logging in 5 times a day. I imagine that's pretty darn difficult, but if you are able to do it, then this event will be a whole lot easier for you. But still, even logging in 5 times a day, I still don't think it's possible to get rabies and all other 7 monsters. So anyways, to summarize my explanation video into 2 sentences, log in every 4 hours and complete all of your actions, and only move during happy hours. And now we can move into the mini analysis portion of the video where I explain to you my thoughts on each monster and I tell you guys which monsters I think are worth going for. Starting things off with Sludger, for some reason it appears that this monster is in every single event, whether it's a progressive event, whether it's a maze island, he's everywhere. And while he may not necessarily be the best rare monster, because many of us probably have so many multiples of him, at least we can rank him up. I imagine by now most of us can probably get him to rank 3 or 4. And if you take a look at his skills, he does have a skill that can give an ally a medium shield as well as energy regeneration. He can give his whole team a small 30% shield. He has an AoE that takes 25% of enemy stamina, and he does come with a single stun skill. So overall, I wouldn't say Sludger is that great of a rare monster, but because we probably have so many of him and you can rank him up, he's a good monster to bring for Team Wars. And not to mention, he only costs 245 maze coins, 220 if you only move him during happy hours. We start the events off with like 150 coins or 115, so why not get him? He's practically free. Next up is a new epic monster, Invidia. And unfortunately for this monster, he's not really that great. He's magic in nature and his trait is immune to poison. I wish he would have gone with the magic side and would have been immune to possession, but it is what it is. As for his skills, his better skills are stamina leak and stamina drain skills, but overall as an epic monster, I would have to say this monster is significantly outclassed by other epics. Honestly, other than collection purposes, this monster isn't worth getting, and I would recommend that you don't even bother moving this monster, except to get keys. Once you get the keys, you should stop moving this monster, focus on getting other monsters, and then come back to this monster at the end of the event if you still have some leftover maze coins. Next up is an old epic monster, Everrenee. And even though this is an old monster, she still remains one of the fastest epic monsters in the whole entire game. Her speed makes her tied for 4th place. And what's probably the most fascinating thing about this monster are her skills. First off, she has Mortal Bite. This skill basically gives Reaper countdown to one enemy target. Reaper countdown will kill the enemy target in 3 turns. I imagine many of you are familiar with this skill if you use Metalhead and you've done his ultimate. And a skill like Mortal Bite would probably come in handy against really tanky monsters, mostly earth monsters. If you ever face off against an Oros or a General Tomb that happens to have a life rune, if you just land Mortal Bite on them, you're going to be dead in 3 turns. And you also don't really need to worry about this epic monster dying to enemy legendary monsters because she has a lot of healing skills like Regenerating Bite. This skill gives her life regeneration for 3 turns. And she also has Healing Bite that has a 2-turn cooldown which recovers her life by 30%. And on top of that, she comes with a more offensive supportive skill called Debilitating Bite, which basically makes the enemy target weak against dark and nature attacks for 2 whole turns. So how cool is that? Dark and nature attacks will be 80% stronger. If you ever find yourself in a team wars involving nature and dark, nature or dark, she's a really good monster to bring. On top of that, this skill gives her an extra turn. So after she uses Debilitating Bite, she can use Healing Bite or Regenerating Bite. It's going to deal more damage than normally would have, and she's going to recover life. I would highly recommend getting Everrenee in this event. She's way better than Invidia. Next up is Lilisha, and I'm forced to say that this is probably the best monster to get in the whole event. Even though she's an old monster, none of the new monsters are really anything amazing, none of them have that wow factor to them. Lilisha is by far the best. Her power and life aren't anything too amazing, but her speed is 3465, which is a really great speed. That's the speed that a lot of deny monsters tend to have. Her trait is also not really that good. It's immune to nightmares. That does help against dark monsters, but really it's better to have something like immune to possession or immune to stun, especially when facing dark monsters. But anyways, moving on over to her skills, she has Demon Hearts, which is basically a 2-turn possession. And she also has a 1 cooldown stun skill, as well as another single possession skill that gives the enemy monster damage boost. So overall, Lilisha is great. She has an incredible speed, she can 2-turn possession, single turn possession, and she can stun. Of all of the monsters in the event, I highly recommend you get Lilisha first. And next up is Pigredo, and this is honestly the monster you should prioritize second. After you get Lilisha, make sure you get Pigredo. His power and life stats are pretty good for earth monsters. The bad thing about this is his speed, 3223, that is pretty darn slow. And his trait is immune to possession, so this actually makes him the very first earth legendary monster to be immune to possession. So this does mean he's usable in team wars involving dark monsters and in team wars involving magic monsters. Now of course in dark wars, dark monsters do have that elemental advantage, but still, considering if the enemy is to use a dark monster as a deny monster, then you're safe because the enemy dark monster is going to have base power. Now as far as being an earth monster, it would have been way better to be immune to stun, but come on, it gets boring if every single earth monster is immune to stun. I actually really like that this monster is immune to possession. I really like that Social Point is starting to introduce more monsters that have immunities to other elements. So trait alone, I find Pigredo very interesting. Let's move on to skills. Taking a look at Power Nap, this skill recovers his life by 20%, it gives him life regeneration, and it removes any debuffs, which is great because on a tanky monster, the worst thing that can happen to them is to be applied by some sort of DOT, such as burning, ignition, poison, bleeding, etc. So having the skill to remove any negative effect, that is really good for him. And this monster also comes with a really great offensive skill, 5 more minutes. It's a 65 damage, 0 cooldown skill. A spammable special base skill that is amazing for earth monsters. And to make things even better, he does come with a single stun skill, although it does have a 2-turn cooldown. But the most fascinating thing about this monster is the skill I'll Do It Tomorrow. Deals moderate special damage, activates all cooldowns on all enemy skills, requires cooldown. So this skill targets a single enemy, and it also applies cooldowns activated, or I should say it activates cooldowns activated. Cooldowns activated is a skill we've only seen with Timerion. Basically with Timerion, when you do the skill cooldowns activated, it activates the cooldowns on all the enemy monsters. So for example, if an enemy monster doesn't have any 0 cooldown skills, you're not going to be able to do anything except maybe their ultimate attack. So this skill definitely makes Pigredo very interesting. For example, if you were to use this skill against an enemy Brontes wouldn't be able to do his AoE stun or his single turn mega stun. If you were to do this against a General Tomb wouldn't be able to do his AoE stun, he wouldn't be able to do his team life shield. So this is a really great way to counter other earth monsters. Now once again, in terms of speed, this monster is way slower than any other earth monster. He's slower than Brontes, he's slower than General Tomb. So realistically, in a fair battle, let's say level 10 runes versus level 10 runes, team speed on the rarity monster, Pigredo would not go before the enemy earth monster. But assuming you have better speed runes than your opponent, then you would be able to utilize his cooldowns activated skill. Now the one thing I'm not sure about this skill is whether cooldowns activated only applies to a single enemy monster or all 3 enemy monsters. I know the skill itself says it targets a single enemy, so the 35 damage, that'll be to a single enemy. But what I don't know for sure is if cooldowns activated is an AoE or if it's just a single enemy too. Because it does say activates all cooldowns on all enemies skills. I think if it was a single target, it should have said enemy apostrophe S skills. You know, enemy skills, not enemy skills. S apostrophe, there's a difference. It might just be wording error or it might be something else. So I can't say for sure what it is. I'm thinking it's going to be a single target just because a 2-turn cooldown is very low. So if it was an AoE cooldowns activated, I really feel that the cooldown would be a lot higher, maybe 5 or 4 turns. But a 2-turn cooldown, that's really low, and I'm leaning more towards it being a single target. But again, the wording on the description kind of confuses me. If this monster would have been even a little faster, he could have been way better. He could have easily been the best monster in this event. But right now, because of his speed and even his trait, it kind of hinders him. I'm forced to say that he's the second best monster to get. Next up is Avrisha, and honestly, I'm not even going to spend time with this monster. Just like the picture suggests, this monster, if you even get it and hatch it, you want to put gold runes on this monster and just have it generate gold. It doesn't even do a good job at it because the best monsters generate 305 gold per minute. This one only does 244. But honestly, looking at skills, looking at the trait, immune to magnetizing, speed, it's not even that fast compared to the metal deniers. He's really by far one of the worst monsters in my opinion. Alright, awesome. With that previous monster out of the way, let's move on over to Vanitas. Vanitas to me is a very interesting monster. I would recommend getting this monster third. After you get Lilisha, after you get Pigredo, you should go for Vanitas. Now Vanitas appears to be a magic attacker. He has a high power, he has a pretty good life, and he has a pretty good speed. And he has a really good trait, immune to possession. So in a team wars involving magic monsters, even if the enemy monster does an AoE possession, Vanitas isn't affected by possession, then he can attack the enemy denier or the enemy attacker. And trust me, Vanitas does a really good job at attacking, especially when he has a 65 damage magic skill and a 60 damage special base skill. So regardless if you're attacking the magic monster or the non-magic monster, you have really powerful skills to choose from. And another cool thing about Vanitas, if you ever use him in a war where you fear you might get stunned, he does come with a skill that gives him a stun immunity for 3 turns. And as for one more interesting thing about Vanitas, Best View in the World gives this monster Mirror for 3 turns. Now the downside to this skill is that he does burn himself, so that's kind of odd. This monster gives himself a debuff and a positive effect, but anyways, the cool thing about Mirror is that it reflects all attacks for 3 turns, so it's actually quite possible to run Vanitas with all speed runes, and then to use them like that. Say for example, if you face off an enemy Egg Eater, if enemy Egg Eater does burn and blind, well your Vanitas has a faster base speed, so giving him all speed runes, he would go before Egg Eater. If you start off the game with Best View in the World, enemy Egg Eater does burn and blind, you burn yourself, Egg Eater burns you back, so I guess it doesn't matter that you burned yourself, and you reflect that to the enemy team. If the enemy Egg Eater does immune to possession, guess what? You get to reflect that to the enemy team too. So there's certainly a lot of usability in this skill, even in a team wars involving like magic and water. Let's say you're facing an enemy General Thetis, and once again Vanitas has a faster base speed than General Thetis, so you start the game off with Best View in the World, then the enemy General Thetis goes and does Stamina Devours. It hits all of your monsters, but thanks to Vanitas' Best View in the World, you can reflect that to the enemy team, and they're gonna have no stamina and you're gonna have no stamina, and then the game can go from there. I think this monster is really interesting. He's an attacker. You could also run him as a denier, although not the typical denier, but kind of denying the AoE. So he's really interesting. I would recommend getting this monster third. And the last monster available in this event is Rabid. And I honestly cannot recommend that you go for this monster, because once again, going for Rabid, you kind of have to forego getting the other monsters, and Rabid is not really that great of a monster. In terms of stats, he's actually not that bad compared to other 5 monsters. His power is over 3,500, so that's good. His life 25,000, that is a little on the low side. His speed, however, 3,454, that is pretty high. It makes him tied with Greedy Dragon and Raccoon. However, General Darmouth and Shelinar still boast the fastest speed of 3,465. And one good thing about this monster is his trait immune to stun. So obviously he's immune to stun. There's plenty of fire monsters that have stun skills. If you're ever in a team wars involving earth monsters, it's really good to have Rabid because he can't get stunned. And yeah, that's pretty much it as far as how good this monster is. When you look at his skills, this is where everything kind of goes wrong. So in skills group 1, he does have a skill called Bitter Wrath that gives an enemy monster sticky lava, but the bad thing is that this skill actually burns himself. That's right, he burns himself, not the enemy monster, so that's kind of weird. And even when you look at other skills like Bad Temper, Free Violence, Bad Temper also burns himself. Free Violence is a 60 damage special base skill, but it also takes away 10% of his HP. That's really bad, especially when we have monsters like Mega Ostium that have a 60 damage special base skill and no cooldown. So Mega Ostium no cooldown 60 damage compared to Rabid's 2 turn cooldown and takes away his life. You know, it's not hard to see who's better. Bloody Outburst makes the enemy target burn, but he makes himself bleed. Now bleed is really bad because bleed actually reduces his damage output by 19%, so why would you want a skill that actually makes you weaker? That doesn't make any sense. Now he does have an AoE sticky lava that also makes all of the enemy targets burn, however once again he burns himself. Now I guess you could argue that's not too bad considering the enemy monster may burn you anyways, but realistically in a team wars, most likely the enemy fire monster wouldn't even be able to hit you, so you'd never get burning on you, so it doesn't make sense to burn yourself. And on top of that, this monster does not have any AoEs, so what does it matter if you do AoE sticky lava if you can't follow it up with an AoE fire based attack? He does have a 70 damage skill, however it's fire based, it takes away 10% of his life, and it has a 3 turn cooldown. And he does have a skill that gives him triple damage, however once again it gives him burning, and it also takes away 10% of his life. Now this skill would come in handy if you were to be possessed, because that way instead of recharging you can give yourself triple damage, which sets up for the next attack. However once again you don't have an AoE, so even if you give yourself triple damage, you can't really follow that up with a super powerful attack. At best you can eliminate one enemy monster. Overall, Rabid is not really that great of a monster. And so that's pretty much going to conclude my mini analysis. Number 1, you should get Lilisha. Number 2, you should get Pigredo. Number 3, you should get Vanitas. Number 4, you should get Everone. Number 5, you should get Sludger. Number 6, you should go for Golem. 7, Nvidia. And lastly, you should get Rabid. But again, when it comes to Rabid, you pretty much just have to decide whether you want Rabid or whether you want the other 7 monsters, because it is possible to get the other 7 monsters, or at least 6 of the monsters, but it's not possible to get all 8 of them. And my overall impression of this event is that it's probably one of the worst events. But who knows, we may be surprised, there may be a secret pathway and a good monster may show up. But again, as of right now, it's not really that great of an event, but you should still prioritize getting Lilisha because she's a really good dark monster, and you should also definitely get Pigredo because he's really interesting. Earth monster, immune to possession, cooldowns activated. As long as you can outspeed the opponents, I can definitely see this monster being used a lot. And anyways, with that being said, that is going to conclude this video. Thank you all for watching. Also let me know what you guys thought about the mini analysis and the explanation portion of the video. If there was anything I said that didn't make sense, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll do my best to respond to you so I can explain it better. And also feel free to ask any of the other members from the community. They're all a really nice group of people, and I'm sure they'd be willing to answer your questions. And also be sure to let me know which monsters you're going to be going for. I know I said this is probably one of the worst events, but I'm still curious to know what you're going to be going for. Are you going to try to get Rabid, or are you going to go for the other monsters? And remember to log in every 4 hours. That's all you need to do if you didn't understand anything. Log in every 4 hours, do all of your tasks, and you're going to be good. Also, only move during happy hours. And with that being said, good luck to everyone on the 7 Deadly Sins event. Remember to dream big and pursue your passions.